connectivity and integration. And thank you very much. My name is Masa Nishimura. I'm co-organizing this session together with Masato Nakane, sitting there. And this session discusses about regional cooperation and integration, RCI. RCI has been the core of ADB's founding charter, and it's kind of old and new topic for ADB. The ADB's recent midterm review of the Strategy 2030, which is the ADB's policy document guiding us towards 2030 and beyond, emphasizes RCI as one of the 5 core pillars or focus areas. And we are enhancing the efforts in RCI. And ADB has been conducting or coordinating various RCI platforms, including the CAREC, SASEC, and GMS, which represents the regions of the Central Asia, Greater Mekong area, which is Southeast Asia, and South Asia. But we have to discuss beyond those sub-regional cooperation. And this is the topic that we are going to discuss further today. And if you are interested in this topic, we also plan a more deep dive session tomorrow afternoon. So you are very much welcome to join that too. So first, we would like to invite Mr. Max Yi. He is the consultant expert in this field. He has been working in CAREC and other corridor studies with ADB, World Bank, and other international organizations. And he is going to give us the overview of the sub-regional cooperation and what the impacts of recent geopolitical tensions, for example, like the closure of the Hormuz Strait, how these are impacting sub-regions. So these topics are going to be introduced by Max, and then moderated discussions will follow. So please enjoy the session, and let me introduce Max to the podium. Max, floor is yours.
Good morning. Thank you, ADB, for this invitation. And this is the first attempt on actually covering the 3 sub-region programs. Right. In the past, those of you who would probably realize that we tend to focus on one specific sub-regions, but this is the first time we are looking at the supply chain across the 3 different sub-programs. So my name is Max, and today I'd like to set the stage on describing this study, the supply chain across the 3 sub-regions covering CAREC, GMS, and SASEC. Our approach uses the CREST model, right, that contains 5 elements. First, connectivity. Then we look at also the relations and politics, the economic structure, supply chain, and the trade regimes. So with this, we use different analytical tools that will help us in the study, right, in the course of data collection, analysis, and we'll cover using first in-house ADB toolkit, right, called the Corridor Performance Measurement and Monitoring that's used in the CAREC region. We also have another team that works out a transport model, right, developing a Pan-Asia model so that we can put in event-based parameters and look at what are the scenarios, what are the factors that will help decision-making in investment programs. That's the transport model. We also use something from the UNISCAP, right? Dr. Caitlin is over here, and we actually learned from the UNISCAP time cost distance method to look at the cost curve and the time curve. We have one case study later using the TCD, and also the UNISCAP business process analysis. So let's understand the current situation, all right? What is the trade dynamics across the 3 different sub-regions? In terms of foreign trade levels, right, this is the import-export within the 3 sub-regions. And for the People's Republic of China, right? Actually, you know that they actually are members of two programs, CAREC and GMS, and it's not the whole nation. This is actually at the regional, right? So in terms of the trade levels, total of import and export, right, by value, based on 2024 data, GMS has the highest, that's more than 1.7 trillion, right, followed by SASEC at 1.3 trillion, and CAREC, $519 billion. So this gives us some idea what is the level of the total trade, right, in each of these sub-region programs. Now, when we look at the individual member countries, right, in each of this program, and sorted out by the trade volume versus the compound annual growth rate, we actually looked and found out that Vietnam, right? Is there any participant from Vietnam? All right, all right. So congratulations, you are actually identified under the high trade volume and the high growth quadrant, right? And that is growing at 10.1% for the past 10 years, right, reaching a trade volume of 782 billion. The other notable countries, right, or regions that deserve mention, right, for having a high growth are Cambodia, Laos, Kyrgyz Republic, Mongolia, as well as the regional economies, Guangxi, Xinjiang, Uyghur Autonomous Region, right, and Yunnan, because they all achieve a CAGR of more than 10%. Now, in terms of the inter-sub-region trade, so we are looking at between CAREC, right, how much trade with the GMS and SASEC, vice versa, right? What we notice is a very immediate key takeaway, that the intra-region trade is still dominant, right, except between GMS and SASEC. So if we look at CAREC, the intra-regional trade reaches 242 billion, right? But the inter-sub-regional trade with GMS, for example, is only 4.2 billion, and with SASEC is 5.7 billion, right? Very small proportion compared to their own internal trade. And between GMS has a very high intra-regional trade, right? And between GMS and SASEC is close to 37 billion, right? And the reason why GMS and SASEC is because of the maritime connectivity. So we can see the importance of all these sea trade lanes that helps regions to connect, whereas CAREC is a bit more constrained, right? So this is the one of the physical limitations, right? Why CAREC is probably, we can consider, less integrated with GMS and SASEC regions. So after the trade dynamics, we look at the corridors, right? And of course, for ADB, we like to move from transport to trade to economic corridors. So these are the land corridors as well as the maritime corridors, right? The land in brown color, the maritime corridors in blue color, that we are looking at the whole region. But I'd like to emphasize also that for GMS, because it's an integral part in ASEAN, right? And like what Masa-san said, our title is beyond, right? So although we are looking at the 3 sub-region programs, but the connectivity of GMS with ASEAN is also an important consideration. And also considering that a lot of the vessels will pass through the Straits of Malacca, right, down to Malaysia and Singapore. So when you look at this whole regional perspective of the corridors, we look at a very important part is in the north, right, the Eurasian continent, the movements of goods between East Asia and Europe, right, and there are some key border points linked to the important gateway seaports, right, that would include places like Tianjin and Lianyungang, right, and also these ports connect to ports like Yokohama and Busan, right, that's very important for the trade activity in the East Asia. Coming down towards more of the inland part, right, one of the constraints is actually in connectivity between Central Asia and South Asia. Right now, because of the recent border closure between Afghanistan and Pakistan, right? So at Karachi, actually some of the containerized shipment have to be unloaded, right, put on the plane and flown to Uzbekistan. So these are some of the things that we pick up. Later at the end, we also talk about the impact of the Middle East and the oil crisis. So what we have seen here is some of the key seaports, right, and some of the land corridors. But this is always evolving, right? Because of ADB's effort or other international financial institutions, we always see that there are new trade connectivities and new corridors being worked out, right? For example, in the Black Sea region, in the Caspian Sea region, there's a lot of things that are developing over there. Okay, based on this baseline, right, now we are moving to supply chain characteristics. Because when we talk about supply chain, there's no one size fits all. And first is we look at the agriculture supply chain. Based on different products, characteristics, and corridors. So on the supply chain map we developed for the agriculture, right? Basically, it contains of three distinct parts. First one is on the supply, right? And that's where the sourcing, the procurement occurs. And we come to production and processing, right? Where these are the planting, the harvest, the value-added processing. Then going down to the final part on the delivery, the transportation, the logistics, right? So this phase 1, phase 2, phase 3 are quite common. And when we look at the sector contribution to the country GDP, right? Why we selected agriculture as the first one is, you can see that relative to the overall GDP, agriculture actually has a very high percentage of contribution, right? And those marked in blue have exceeded 20% of contribution. I'd like to point out, we have actually looked at wheat shipments, fresh vegetables and fruits, but we like to highlight this rice because I think it gives a very good and recent example of the supply chain connection between two regions. We are talking about between GMS and CAREC, right? So in terms of rice production, India is the leading, right, in terms of the rice production and export. And in terms of export, it's number 1, followed by Thailand and Vietnam, and the list goes down. Some countries like PRC actually is a big producer, but at the same time it's also a big consumer, so very little exports. And based on this, there is a recent signing between Mongolia and Vietnam, all right, a G2G agreement on this rice shipments, where there is a commitment to supply 30,000 tons of rice, right, from Vietnam to Mongolia. And we actually look at the, using the time cost distance, we map out the supply chain from source, right, that's from Vietnam crossing the border into PRC, right, and then by train, right, this is a rail shipment. It goes up inside Kunming and then goes to Beijing. From there, it goes to the border between PRC and Mongolia. Okay, watch what happened when it reached Zaminut and Arianhot, which is along CAREC corridor 4B. You see that there's actually a long vertical line, so this actually implies there's impediments and constraints, right? So what happens when we look at the whole shipment of this rice, right, using railways, we find that the total distance more than 4,000 kilometers and total days, 28 days, right? And based on this bottleneck, 10 days alone is spent at the border crossing time, right? And it actually suggests that there are issues. So when we look deeper, what we found out is on the Mongolian side at Zaminut, right, there is actually a limited processing capacity based on the cranes, right, and not all are fully functional. There's also a lack of digitalization over there. So the transfer of the goods at this border actually becomes time-consuming. And these are some of the key takeaways in agriculture, right? What we have identified, the 5 observations in all those food supply chain that we studied, right? Then moving on, okay, one of the very hot topic now is on the critical minerals to manufacturing, CMMs, and also electric vehicles. So this is one of the target supply chain we are looking at, combining both industries. And we found out that electric vehicles actually demanded more CMMs compared to fossil fuel conventional cars, right? In fact, 6 times more. Minerals like lithium, cobalt, manganese, and so on. So in terms of opportunity and risk, you can see that on one hand, there's actually a high growth for electric vehicles globally, right? But on the other hand, in terms of supply chain, there is a very major concern about concentration of these minerals in certain economies, right? And the supply chain will become risky if, let's say, there are any impediments to the shipments, to the border crossing, to the customs clearance. So now we are actually looking in depth on this, and for this electric vehicle supply chain, there are 6 different steps from mining until the end of life. we are looking at actually how do we connect is across the 3 sub-programs is we look at CAREC, right, with abundance of minerals and resources, right, as the resource provider. And then it comes to the manufacturing, right, the value added of electric vehicles and also electric batteries in PRC. And from there, it goes to 2 locations. One is in GMS, like for example, Thailand, right, using the electric batteries to make the final assembly and selling to places like ASEAN. And then the second one is to South Asia. So certain countries in South Asia have a more restrictive policy, and the production will be within that economy. So we are looking at the supply of 2-wheelers or 3-wheelers between India and Bangladesh, right? Okay, I cannot complete my presentation if we don't mention about this, right? So Middle East and the oil crisis. When we look at the oil prices, right, compared to the futures, the spot versus the futures, that's actually backwardation. So it means that the spot price now is actually higher than the future delivery price. This is from the US Energy Information Administration, the short-term outlook STO. And based on this, it's likely that we are going to see a peak, right, in Q2 this year of the spot crude oil price, right? But this is according to current news. Things can change very fast. In Q3 or 4, prices might be moderated, right? And when we look at the number of incoming and outgoing ships through the Straits of Hormuz, we look at from the usual 110, it has dropped down to less than 20 per day, right? And it's still staying at a very low level. So this is going to have a pent-up impact on the 3 sub-region programs. But in our preliminary assessment now, right, what we think is that for CAREC is probably better insulated, right? They have a better buffer. And this is also, there's also within CAREC economies, also there's certain winners and losers, right? Places like Kazakhstan, Azerbaijan, Turkmenistan will be in better shape because of the resource endowment. In terms of GMS, they will face higher cost of inflation, right? Because they import the energy supplies, and also there's the heavy industry base that depends on the energy sector. We expect SASEC to be the worst hit, right? Because basically they are almost fully import reliant on the energy, the raw materials, right? And this is also going to affect their production process. So with that, hopefully I stay within the time. There's still 30 seconds left, right, on the dot, and set the stage for this supply chain across the 3 sub-regions. And later we will have some discussion. With that, I thank you, and I hope you enjoy the day itself.
Okay, thank you, Max. So that's an excellent presentation. So I hope everyone is already wake up. So a very good morning again. I think the message being conveyed in this presentation is very sobering. The region will need stronger and more resilient connectivity between each other. My name is Chen Chen, as you can see. I'm a director of transport covering the region of Central West Asia, East Asia, as well as the Pacific in ADB's transport office. I'm going to moderate the panel discussion today. So I'm very glad that we have a fabulous panel which represent colleagues from different region, different organization, as well as different part of transport corridor. Let me invite our panelists one by one. First, Max, please come back to the stage. Then I would like to invite Mr. Chari Mohammed Shaliev, Director of CAREC Institute. Thank you. Ms. Salome Chuchumia, the Deputy Chairperson of the Road Department. So Ms. M. Fayavan Kiopadis, Deputy Director General, Department of Transport from Laos. And Mr. Valir Rahman, Project Director, SASEC Road Connectivity Project 2 from Bangladesh. Ms. Catherine Luger from UN Escape, the Chief of Transport Division. And Mr. Lei Song, Advisor of ADB's Strategy, Policy, and Partnership Department. Okay, so it's complete, right? Yeah. So, colleagues, actually inside ADB, as Masa mentioned at the beginning of the session, so we are reviving and probably even increasing our ambition to support the region's connectivity between each other in Asia and the Pacific. So this has been an exercise, I think, never finished, never stopped. But every time when it comes back in a bigger way. So the presentation which saw just now actually confirmed again the importance of connectivity. There's one question in our mind from ADB. Actually, there's one ongoing discussion. So we all know actually ADB invested a lot to support the transport sector development in the region. But what is the purpose of transport connectivity? So there is a discussion. There probably should be several dimensions or several generations of transport connectivity. So from transport connectivity, there should be trade connectivity. And from trade connectivity, there should be economic connectivity. And when we all can enjoy economic connectivity with many, many other partners, I think the economy will become more resilient. So in this context, I think we probably can start the discussion about the transport infrastructure, which is, of course, focus of this transport forum. I would like to first give my question to Mr. Shaliev from CAREC Institute. So following the keynote of Max, from your perspective, or CAREC Institute's perspective, what is the current status of transport infrastructure development under regional cooperation and integration, particularly in highway, railway, ports, and dry ports?
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, at the very outset, I'd like to say that it's our privilege to be invited as panelists at this influential and fabulous forum. I would describe the current status of regional transport infrastructure in Asia as improving, expanding, but not yet seamless. Across CAREC, GMS, and SASEC, and related corridors, the national investment still plays a crucial role, but we have moved beyond isolated national projects toward multimodal economic corridors linking highways, railroads, ports, dry ports, and related systems. As CAREC, transport remains one of the biggest field of regional cooperation, and transportation and the connectivity is one of our research priorities. Now I'll cite some figures which will give possibility to compare and juxtapose some indices related to regional infrastructure. The latest CAREC transport strategy midterm review reports $8.61 billion of CAREC transport investment during 2021-2024, equal to 16.5% of total CAREC investment, with ADB financing more than half of development partners' transport financing. This shows strong commitment, but also highlights that the task is large and long-term. The highways, the picture is positive but uneven. road transport remains dominant and essential, especially for in a shorter regional trade, perishable goods, and access to rural and border areas. Many countries are upgrading corridors and border roads, but the next challenge is maintenance, safety, and asset management. The CAREC review notes progress in road asset management, but also that many countries still allocate maintenance funding below actual needs. On railways, the momentum is clearly increasing. Rail is becoming more important for containerized long distance and higher value trade, especially on east-west routes and the Middle Corridor. The World Bank's Middle Corridor study finds that with the right investments and policy reforms, the corridor could triple trade volumes and halve travel time by 2030, but only if countries improve logistics coordination, digitalization, railway capacity, intermodal facilities, and port performance. On ports and dry ports, the main message is that they are no longer peripheral facilities. They are strategic nodes in supply chain resilience. The recent Container Port Performance Index, jointly compiled by the World Bank and CNP Globe and Market Intelligence, stresses that vessel turnaround time is central to logistics costs, port resilience, and supply chain efficiency, and that recent Red Sea and Panama Canal disruptions again exposed maritime vulnerabilities. For CAREC, this means Caspian and Black Sea capacity, port rail links, dry ports, logistics hubs, and intermodal terminals must be treated as one system, not separate assets. The CAREC review specifically calls for multimodal logistics hubs, dry ports, harmonized regulations, digital processes, and stronger links between ports, railways, and roads. From the CAREC Institute's perspective, our corridor performance work gives an evidence-based view of what is improving and what still blocks trade. The CPMM mechanism uses real shipment data to track border crossing time and cost, transport cost, and corridor speed across CAREC corridors. The 2024 CPMM results show that overall logistics performance is improving but unevenly. Road transport costs and speeds improved, rail border crossing time fell, yet road border crossing time worsened and rail costs rose. The conclusion is clear. Progress is evident, but sustained improvement requires investment, trade facilitation reform, smart logistics systems, and policy coordination. We also want to highlight CAREC Institute's work on containerization. Containerization can reduce trade costs, improve logistics efficiency, and better connect landlocked economies to regional and global value chains. But our work also shows that container use, service reliability, and corridor efficiency remain uneven across countries and corridors, partly because of infrastructure constraints, border inefficiencies, regulatory fragmentation, and underdeveloped logistics markets. I'll stop here. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Charliev. That's a very comprehensive overview about the needs in the CAREC region. So let's zoom into a country, so Georgia. So Ms. Chetumia, yesterday your deputy minister in the opening session actually highlighted how much Georgia has done in the last decade, or maybe 2 decades, to support the regional connectivity. So what is your view of the current status and what need to be done next decade?
Thank you for this question. From the Georgia's regional perspective, the transport infrastructure development is advancing rapidly and strongly focused on the regional cooperation and integration, as yesterday Deputy Minister also has mentioned. And I will follow up also Mr. Cherry Mohammed's speech, and that he has underlined the importance of the middle corridor and the studies which has underlined what kind of the capacity middle corridor has. We are lucky that the part of the middle corridor passed through the Georgia, and approximately 430 kilometers is crossing the country. Today, the 4 international corridors are crossing the country, and the priority is a middle corridor. This is the 4 international corridor, like middle corridor, the Black Sea Trans-Caspian corridor, the Lapis Lazuli Road, and Persian Gulf Sea corridor. Among them, the middle corridor is a national priority, and the development of the middle corridor. Middle corridor is a part of the CAREC's second corridor also, and it is an integral part of this important road. In the highway sector, the major development was done in the last 6-7 years, and approximately 2.5 billion we are invested in the development of the middle corridor. East-West Highway, so-called the middle corridor, is a priority of our country, and from the 430 kilometers, approximately 318 kilometers is already completed. And the country is keen to complete the remaining part of the middle corridor, and approximately 18 kilometers will be completed up till the end of this year, and the part is under the development, including with the support of the ADB, who is developing now the, with support of the ADB, we are developing now the Tbilisi bypass road, which is a critical part of the East-West Highway. But in the development of the East-West Highway, the most important, the crucial was the development of the Ritikoti Pass, which was completed, fully completed in 2025, and in the last 5 years, we have constructed the 97 bridges and 51 tunnels on the 51 kilometer of the road, and with the support of the ADB and other IFIs. This has significantly improved the travel time, safety, and reliability. Georgia is developing the additional strategic road connections. Not only the East-West Highway is a priority of the country, also the connection with the borders of the neighboring country, with the other international corridors. Now it's planned to develop the east part of the country. We are constructing the Kakheti Highway to connect with the border of the Azerbaijan from the Lagodekhi side. As it is important that the East-West Highway is starting near the border of the Azerbaijan in the Red Bridge and ends near the border of the Sarpi, near the Turkey, Republic of Turkey. But the development of the other part of the highways, like east part in the Kakheti, we have already constructed the 4-line highway, and also the development of the north-south corridor. We have under the construction the Koshati-Kobe Road project, which is financed also by the ADB. And also the development of the highway near the border of the Armenia in the Sadakhlo is the priority of the country. In total, Georgia plans to invest approximately 4.5 billion USD in the next 10 years on the development of the corridors. But here the important is not only the development of the East-West Highway and Middle Corridor, also the development of the other highway, and also upgrading the existing 2-lane highways to the 4-lane highways. With the support of the ADB and other IFIs, we are planning to upgrade also the Kobuleti bypass, which is the part of the East-West Highway. This investment aims not only to improve the mobility, but also to increase the regional trade, freight turnover, and economical integration. As it was mentioned, the development of the ports is a priority, and also the connection with the port is a priority. And the roads are exactly that infrastructure which are connecting us with the port. Even the dry ports, logistical management is the important here. The all international roads, then including the East-West Highway and Middle Corridor, which pass through the Georgia, is connected to the ports, like which we have on the Black Sea. This is the Poti Port and Batumi Port, and also we are the planned Anaklia Dipsy Port. The new connection will be ensured by the Roads Department with the construction of the new highway, which is the planned one. Here at the same time, another important direction is the modernization and digitalization, which was mentioned here also, and the road asset management. We are exactly developing now the intelligent transport system, which will ensure the logistical improvement on the existing highways. And with the road asset management system development, we will ensure that the uninterrupted traffic flow. Then the overall current status of the regional transport infrastructure projects in Georgia is very active and ambitious, and we are going to ensure the smooth traffic flow through Georgia on the middle corridor. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Salome. So let's now move from CAREC to GMS. So Ms. Kilpadis, so we saw from the presentation, GMS is actually doing the best in terms of the regional trade and other connectivity. But from Laos, what's your view about the current situation of the transport infrastructure?
Yes, good morning, everyone. So thank you very much to give me a chance to share the information about the transportation in Laopedia. So could you show me the slide, please? Because I think that maybe some of you don't know about the location of Laopedia. So that's why today I would like to share the location. Laopedia also next to the 5 countries, Vietnam, China, Myanmar, Thailand, and Cambodia. So that's why we also have signed a contract with 4 countries. We have bilateral transport agreement with Thailand, Vietnam, Cambodia, and also Thailand. Nowadays, we have trilateral agreement. It's not agreement, but MOU. But we didn't implementation because a lot of things that is like a challenge for us. So we also have GMS or cross-border transport facilitation agreement. Now we also focus on the upgrading the road because we have a road to become like a backbone of economic or logistic, where we can link to the provincial capital and maybe dry port. So we also expect to bring our goods to the seaport. So that's why we need to improve the road where we can connect like maybe Thailand, Vietnam, China. Nowadays we have projects under SASEC. It means Southeast Asia Sub-Region Economic Connectivity Corridor. So we hope that this project will benefit for Lao people and Thailand, China, and Vietnam. We also implementation right now is, I think the reach around 20%. Maybe it's quite delayed for the plan because we also construction on the mountain. It's difficult. The road is very narrow, and a lot of things also happen. When the raining season is also affected with the landslide, a lot of things. So it's make the project delay. We hope that this corridor will bring a lot of things for many countries, or even though like SASEC or CAREC. I think that it can link because we have like a Lao-China railway, that if we use the train that connect the good to the other country. But nowadays we have problem with the border because we need to standards licensing about the cross-border custom to easier to bring the good to country. Nowadays we use like CBTM, it means cross-border transport management system, to allow the international good vehicle to come, but we cannot to monitor any system. So we need to link with the other country because it's easier to cut the time for transit. Now we also develop like a dry port. Actually, we also determine about 9 dry ports. 3 of them already open in Vientiane and Champasak Sawanakhet. So all kind of the common vehicle, common good, I mean like have to stop at dry port, and maybe you need to consolidate. And but especially for transit good vehicle, you can go directly to the destination. Yeah. So this is a situation in Laos, PDR. Yep. I just want to share and stop here. Yep.
Thank you, thank you. So it's very impressive actually to see the focus now also start including the efficiency and quality at the border crossing. Yeah. So let's move to SASEC. Yeah. So Mr. Rahman, so can you also share your perspective from the Bangladesh as well as SASEC connectivity?
Good morning, everyone. Thank you for giving me this opportunity to speak at this forum. And thanks to ADB for inviting me. Actually, the SASEC, we've been working on SASEC corridors in Bangladesh for more than 10 years now. So ADB is actually our main development partners for the SASEC corridors. So we have several SASEC corridors. And actually, if you see Bangladesh, Bangladesh is a country which has actually 4,000 kilometers of border sharing with India, and only about maybe 220 kilometers of border with Myanmar. So we have many land ports naturally with India. So we have a huge trade going on with India. And if you see the infrastructure we are building, targeting the SASEC corridor, it's mainly actually, so far, we are focusing on roads, highways. So what we have built so far, we have built this SASEC corridor on the northwest side, and we are now building on the northeast side as well. So these corridors that's connecting these borders, say, I think 16 borders is operational at this point from India. There's all these border connections. It's bringing these connections to. We have 3 seaports. So all these SASEC corridor is connected to the seaports. So this main seaport is actually our Chattogram port. That is actually connected with all these land ports. That is where we are working on for the infrastructure of road projects. And we are also building another deep sea port in Matarbari. That deep sea port actually will help us to bring goods from for large ships to and from Matarbari port. And that will actually help in the logistics of Bangladesh. Actually, we are working on the infrastructure, but we are lagging behind the volume of export. So we have to catch up with the volume of export and infrastructure. So we have to quickly improve our infrastructure further. About the multimodal system, the railway, we are working on railways as well. There are SASEC projects for railways. Yesterday, Mr. Amrito showed this Chittagong-Coxsbazar train link, and there's an innovation about the elephant pass below the train link. I hope you've seen it. So these railways we are upgrading as well. So we know that railway construction takes time and money. So we have a plan. We are creating a master plan for about 42 multimodal hubs. So there will be logistics hub as well with railways and roads and inland waterways. So these hubs actually we have a master plan. Now we are trying to focus on these hubs. We are trying to focus on highways as well as railways and inland water transport as well. So these infrastructure works is going on. So what we need actually, we need this plan to be implemented as quick as possible so that we can catch up with the export volume with of our country. You know that Bangladesh has a very huge export volume of mainly or on garments product, you know that. And we have agriculture as well. So we are trying to diversify our export, like say deliveries, export more product, more diversification in the products we need. So we need more investment in Bangladesh for that, for diversification of the products. This infrastructure will bring more investment in Bangladesh, we hope so. So this infrastructure is, it has to be sustainable. We are actually, because you know that the Bangladesh has prone to many disasters, you know. So this structure has to be resilient, more resilient. So we are working on that as well. So more resilient infrastructure. I'm building one road of 190 kilometer, and so far it is showing very resilient infrastructure. And this resilient infrastructure and this connectivity with the land borders and the seaport will actually improve the trade along the corridor of SASEC. So as you were saying that the SASEC and beyond, so actually what we have to focus from Bangladesh, that we have to go beyond, not only SASEC, we have to look east as well. So the problem is actually is with the Myanmar, we have a land port in Myanmar, with Myanmar, but there is some tensions between Myanmar and Bangladesh, you all know that. So these political situation has to be resolved to get the advantage of the trade west, east, north, south, in all directions. So Bangladesh has a big potential. The location of Bangladesh is very good. We have long sea areas in the south, you know that. So these sea areas and these seaports can be used with the, like say, there are Nepal, Bhutan, and you know the landlocked areas of the northeast of India. So these can be, there can be trade boost among these regions with Bangladesh if we can build the infrastructure and the port areas. And the other issues that we need to discuss on these delays in borders. So that is a different issue. Infrastructure, we are building the infrastructure, but there has to be policy reform, custom reform, digitization. These things has to be looked into for the future. So the future looks bright, but we have a long way to go. So hope for the best. Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah, that's a very inspiring ending word. So let's move to our partners. So Ms. Luger, we know actually UNESCAP is advocate of this Asia Highway and the Pan-Asia Railway Network. So from the UNESCAP's perspective, where are we in terms of the developing the regional transport infrastructure, and what we should do next?
Yeah, good morning. Thank you, Chen Chen, for the floor, and thank you to all the fellow panelists. I think you've made my job very easy because most of the topics have already been covered. So, as Chen Chen said correctly, from ESCAP's perspective, we are the intergovernmental platform for the coordinated development of regional transport infrastructure, composed of the Asian Highway Network, Trans-Asian Railways, and the Dry Ports Agreement. And despite major achievements over the last decades, our regional transport network is still expanding both in the land area as well as in the maritime area. If we look at the Asian Highway Network, it now spans across 32 countries, 145,000 kilometers, linking all of the country's capitals and most of the economic centers, and continues to grow. To give some examples, in 2025, Armenia, Bangladesh, and Thailand updated their Asian highway routes, reflecting real infrastructure upgrades on the ground. Looking at the Trans-Asian Railway Network, 120,000 kilometers across 28 countries, has officially incorporated updated junctions and border stations in Lao PDR, reflecting the continued build-out, as also mentioned by Kun Ampaiwan, in Southeast Asia. In terms of substance, the working group agreed on a railway connectivity standard scheme, was also mentioned already, to enable greater interoperability along the Trans-Asian Railway Network, and also adopted a regional framework on rail cybersecurity. We're talking about the emerging digital rail operations, but of course needs to also be able to manage the risks of those. Dry ports play an increasing role in facilitating multimodal connectivity, and especially so in landlocked developing countries. We've also heard that. So the Intergovernmental Agreement on Dry Ports now covers over 300 existing and potential facilities across 28 countries, with one recent accession last year by Kyrgyzstan. The working group adopted substantial amendments last year as well. Kazakhstan added 2 new facilities, Mongolia upgraded facilities, Uzbekistan added 24 facilities in one single entry, very remarkable. And also the Russian Federation made extensive updates. Looking across all these transport modes, we see 2 cross-cutting themes emerging consistently. The first one is providing the regional backbone for seamless and resilient multimodal corridors, needs to integrate highways, railways, dry ports, and maritime ports. And this is also reflected in the AWASA program for action for landlocked developing countries. And then also mentioned by most of my fellow speakers, the importance of digitalization, both from an operational point of view, but also as a decarbonization enabler in terms of making these corridors and dry ports more efficient. And that covers not only an AI-enabled traffic management on highways, but also electronic information exchange on railways and smart port systems in maritime transport. We have heard that infrastructure gaps do remain. We see them particularly in South and Southwest Asia, North and Central Asia, and very much so when it comes to infrastructure quality and sustainability. So we are flagging the need for sustained investment, capacity building, and also institutional coordination. So none of this should come as a surprise. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. I think what you are telling us is the infrastructure development needs is there, but probably it's even more diversified to different areas, digitalization, other things. Yeah. So let's come to ADB. Lily, I feel very much encouraged after hearing all the demand and the future vision. So you are the author, one of the authors for this ADB's RCI approach paper, which was recently finalized and approved. So can you share ADB's view? Where are we in the transport infrastructure development in the whole ADB's RCI approach?
Thank you very much, Chen Chen. Very pleased to be in this forum. And so probably we start from this is ADB, RCI is ADB's DNA, we call it in DNA. By the way, actually, you in ESCAP, you are not only a partner, you gave birth to ADB. That's ECAFE. Yeah, 60 years ago. This year is ADB's 60th anniversary. And from very beginning, ADB was already clear. Our founders were very clear. ADB is a regional institution. The charter itself is all about regional cooperation, regional economic growth, prioritize regional, sub-regional, national project for the purpose of promoting economic growth. They call it harmonious economic growth for the region as a whole. So from very beginning, ADB is regional institution. And we have been doing so much, although initially we focus on country programs, but still the perspective of a region is always there. Then the first, so this session mentioned GMS, CAREC, SASEC. They are all ADB initiated cooperation, sub-regional cooperation platforms. ADB serves as a secretariat for these sub-regional programs. GMS was established in 1992, so next year would be 35 years anniversary. CAREC, SASEC were established in 2001, so this year actually 25th years anniversary. Yeah, we would have some celebrations for CAREC, I believe, and a ministerial meeting in Mongolia. So all this, yeah, and ADB also works with other regional forums. You have a lot of acronyms. ASEAN, you already heard, that's Association of Southeast Asian States. Then you have other acronyms like SAARC, that's South Asia, even I can't remember how it stands for. You have BIMSTEC, Bay of Bengal. It's also very high level, summit head of states level. You have BIMPIAGA, yeah, that's part of ASEAN, IMTGT, and so on and so forth. So we have so many, and actually ADB works with all of them. In the Pacific, we have a Pacific Island forums. So ADB has been supporting all these regional initiatives. And we developed, over the past year, we developed a new operational approach for regional cooperation and integration. And it was just approved in March, this March 2026. And we highlight the purpose of ADB supporting regional cooperation integration is essentially to promote productivity growth, which essentially economic growth, which purpose actually why we need to integrate. Because integration brings you to a bigger market. Beyond the border, you have regional markets instead of national markets. big markets would have create economy of scale, enhance productivity. So that's the main purpose. And actually, that's the main purpose of ADB, to promote economic growth. But increasingly, this resilience, the title of this session, and the resilience coming from the two aspects. One is we call environment transboundary challenges to economic resilience. It's from the environment, climate change, biodiversity loss, health risk, and pandemic. All these are transboundary crises. But also economic shocks, given the global context. And globalization creates efficiencies, but globalization also creates losers. And many of them are in developed countries, which led to a lot of changes you see in the past decade also. So this economic shocks also needs economic resilience. And from ADB side, because we are the regional institution, we work for the region and we want to promote, I would call it, collective resilience. So the resilience emerged from the relationship, actually the quality relationship and the coordination, collaboration, cooperation mechanism. So work together collectively, then to strengthen the resilience coming from environment damage, coming from economic shocks. And regional connectivity essentially is to boost such a connectivity in terms of, actually the connectivity can have two sides, hard and soft. Hard are physical connectivity. So you have roads, you have transmission pipelines, you have a digital, now increasingly digital. But you can also have a soft connectivity. Policy, harmonization, standards, regulatory frameworks, they are the necessities for the country to connect. Yeah, even like railways, you have the different gauges, and border crossing points, you have the roads. So how to make them to be really facilitate the goods and the people move around, and also the data increasingly. So all this needs a soft connectivity. So we now work for soft connectivity as well. So for ADB, we have three priorities. One is traditional physical connectivity, roads, power, digital, and then softer sides, trade, investment, and the financial. We need financial cooperation to strengthen the financial resilience and to provide financial safety nets to countries. And also to address environment, climate issues, we need to increase the provision of so-called regional public goods, as well as the global public goods, such as climate action, health security, all this. So those are the priorities of ADB. Ultimately, they work towards the objective of enhanced productivity growth and also improved resilience. So let me stop here. Thank you.
Thank you, Lily. I think the RCI gene of ADB always play a very important role when we need it to come back. Okay, so let me just quickly go to Max. We heard all these insights from our panelists. I would like to give you 1 minute. What's your response to this?
Thank you. From synthesizing from the various insights, right, I think we can see that there's definitely a need for more robust supply chain, right? At the same time, there are actually structural challenges. Like when we talk about, for example, when we want to encourage more multimodal transport, right, there are actually some difficulties in implementation. Like for example, let's say between GMS and SASEC, there's a lot of maritime which use containers. But a 40-foot container, you have, let's say, 25 tons payload. But when you move to a railway inland to Central Asia, which typically relies on railways, train, a wagon of 70 tons, right, then you can see that there's a capacity mismatch. Another area I think very common is that some of the intervention programs we have is considering only one node, but not the adjacent node. Like in certain programs, we modernize one border point, but the other border point is not upgraded at the same pace. So things will get stuck at location A, and when it goes to location, the node B, there is a downstream problem because the vehicle or the train will still get stuck. So I think synthesizing all this, there's definitely a need for more concerted effort together, right, to break through these barriers. I think many are institutional, like one of what the panelists mentioned here, there are institutional factors as well. So transportation as well as the soft aspect, whether it's digitalization or regional cooperation, connectivity, have to go hand in hand and then pave the way for a better, more connected future. Right. Thank you.
Thank you, Max. Yeah, fully agree. The efficiency of a corridor is always determined by the weakest part of the corridor. So, yeah, colleagues, I would like to tell you, collectively, we encroached into the second questions time by 12 minutes already. So I would like to impose a strict house rule here. So the second question is, what's your view about the evolution of Pan-Asia connectivity, supply chain, and supply chain resilience in the current context? I guess we would like to hear your insight about the current status and the challenge, and how should we respond. I would like to request everyone to give your insights in 2 minutes. So let's start from SASEC this time. So, Ms. Raman.
Thank you. Actually, as I was saying, that the infrastructure is in a growth, like say we are growing the infrastructure in roads and railways, but for the sustainability of the infrastructure for the corridor, actually the policy reform has to be there. The border delays has to be reduced, and the system has to be digitized, or maybe now we are thinking about AI system to incorporate in the border areas. So these border delays has to be reduced, so get the good outcome from these trade corridors, and also this port, Chattogram port, the efficiency of the Chattogram port. You know that it is in the rise, but still we need to make the Chattogram port more efficient, so that the delays in the product delivery is addressed properly. So the other issues, as you said, this the multimodal process we are try to build, that we have to also build this inland container depot as well, the ICD. In Bangladesh, actually, ADB is supporting to construct some ICDs, and there is a large ICDs under construction in Dilastrom in the north, just north of Dhaka. So there are some other ICDs are being constructed as the dry port. So these dry ports is very important for the multimodal logistic supports. So product diversification is going on, and this ICD is also going on. But the policy reform that we need to do that, because we need to build trust among our partners, and this trust has to be. We actually, from our side, we need to advocate that the good relation with neighbors will actually help both for the trade and facilitation. See, so the thing is that the trust among the people needs to be built, so that we can have a good relation with neighbor, and we can have a good trade partnership with the neighbors. So we have to work on that policy issues, and other issues is digitization. So these digitizations in the borders, digitization in the borders, okay. Digitization in the borders, we have to actually, as I said, this is to facilitate, to reduce the delays in the border areas are very important. So thank you, I'll stop here, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Raman. I think thanks for demonstrating the importance of efficiency, including the panel discussion. Okay, let's move to GMS. So, Ms. Pattis, so for GMS, if we needed to actually put it in the context of Pan-Asia connectivity, what should we do?
Yes, so once again, thank you for your question. I just want to share, like I mentioned before, the GMS or facilitation, cross-border facilitation agreement is very crucial to bring a 6 country together. But what we see right now, we just see some arrest number from the vehicle from GMS to pass the Laopedia because the corridor is quite far. And we see something that is like a challenge, we think like a digital system. Because some cross-border in my country is not like a modernized, so it cannot connect every system. So we see we need to improve about the system for maybe domestic system and can connect it with the international system. So we see the problem is we cannot to monitoring the international goods vehicle to come to Laos, and we don't know where it's go. So this is the problem for my country. I just want to share, and we need to develop it. And I think that I also support to connect with the CAREC, GMS, SASEC, because we see the recently the fuel or the energy crisis. In my country, we also lack of the energy. Many people need to stop and working at home. So this is a good chance that we need to connect the many countries that we give us a lot of chance and a lot of opportunity to bring a good from all over the world. And then maybe you just don't have only one choice. So we also support the strategy to connect with the GMS, SASEC, or CAREC. Yep, that's all from my side. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Okay, so now let's move to CAREC. So we actually remember one slide of Mac's presentation. So CAREC is actually, at this moment, the trade volume is the lowest among the 3 sub-regional connectivity. But another perspective to look at this is probably we have a lot of room to grow. So Salome, we know actually Georgia always consider it's a country at the gateway between Europe and Asia. But when we talked about Asia, it not necessarily it's only about CAREC. So what should CAREC do to really put CAREC in the context of Pan-Asia supply chain and connectivity?
Thank you, Chen. From
Salome first, if possible. Yeah.
Thank you. The Pan-Asia connectivity and supply chain resilience has become more important than ever in the current geopolitical and economical context. And the recent global disruption like was COVID-19, like the Russian-Ukrainian war and this conflict in the Middle East demonstrated the need of the diversified, reliable and resilient transport corridor. And in this environment, the middle corridor has gained the strategic importance as a gateway between the Europe and the Asia. And the connection between the Europe and Asia with the South Caucasus is very important. And this means not only the linking the highways, but linking the railway, ports, and the future logistic hubs also. And the strengthening of this corridor and diversify of the access from the borders of the different countries through the Georgia to the Europe is the very important and the priority. And at the same time, this multimodal connectivity through the modern infrastructure, including the East-West Highway, Black Sea ports, the future Anakla Deep Sea Port, and the regional road and rail connections with the neighboring countries is very important. From our perspective, the Pan-Asian connectivity is no longer just a transport infrastructure, and it's about the economic security, global cooperation, and the certain reliable supply chain that can adapt to the global challenges. And here, the Georgia is committed to contribute to this vision by becoming a competitive, secure, and sustainable transport hub between the Europe and Asia.
Thank you very much. So let's go to Mr. Shaliev. Yeah, so CAREC Institute, we understand you already had a lot of dialogue with South Asia, with Southeast Asia. So what's your insight?
Thank you. From my standpoint, I'd like to emphasize three main directions in terms of Pan-Asian connectivity. First is single corridors to corridor networks, and it means CAREC, GMS, SASEC, ASEAN, and other regional platforms should not be seen as separate initiatives. They are increasingly connected parts of wider Asian logistics systems. This is first. And second is from infrastructure construction to system performance. It means building roads and railways is essential, but it's not enough. We also need efficient border crossing, harmonized standards, efficient border digital customs, reliable data, professional logistics services, and predictable regulations. And third, from public investment to blended and sustainable investment. The financing needs are very large, and public budgets alone cannot meet them. We need to mobilize development partners, private investors, private-public partnerships, and innovative financing instruments while ensuring that projects are bankable, sustainable, climate resilient, and socially inclusive. This is also why the CAREC initiative and at the same time CAREC Institute has placed strong emphasis on knowledge, policy dialogue, and capacity building. In 2025, as you know, the CAREC Institute successfully organized the inaugural Tianshan Forum for Central Asia Economic Cooperation in Urumqi. And this year, we are going to organize second inaugural second Tianshan Forum in Almaty. And this forum will create all preconditions for two-way cooperation and to intensify connectivity and resilient growth. And Tianshan Forum in Kazakhstan with a focus on more resilient connectivity and sustainable investment. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Liev. So let's come to UN Escape. Catherine, please.
Thank you. I think I can do this in less than 2 minutes because my colleagues here have really mentioned almost everything already. So I would say from our intergovernmental and analytic work, we see three key directions to increase the resilience of our infrastructure and connected systems towards geopolitical and other external shocks. We just heard system integration, so I couldn't agree more. I think we need to draw on a regional transport network instead of competing connectivity initiatives. Regional coordination and institutional cooperation are more important, and we need to certainly avoid further fragmentation, so I think that's quite clear. Digitalization has been mentioned multiple times, and in the past I think digitalization has mainly been driven by economic efficiency concerns, but I think we can now pivot to also consider resilience, also been mentioned. To reap resiliency gains, we need to coordinate our approaches for digitalized and paperless logistics systems, harmonized cross-border standards, data-driven supply chain management. And this aligns with recent intergovernmental outcomes from our member states, for instance, the rail cybersecurity framework that has been added to the Trans-Asian Railway Agreement. And then I would like to emphasize inclusive connectivity, especially landlocked developing countries and small island developing states have structural vulnerabilities that don't just go away. And if their infrastructure development is to be addressed, we need to, for instance, think about collaborative mechanisms between landlocked and coastal states to fully operationalize freedom of transport. So I'll stop here. Thank you.
Yeah. Thank you very much, Catherine. Lily, please.
Yeah, thank you very much. And with our new president, President Kanda arrived in ADB February last year, the ADB is now increasingly to push up some flagship initiatives to align ADB's operations closely with national priorities and also to regional ambitions. So in just finished the annual meeting in Samarkand, this year in May, a few weeks ago, and we announced the two initiatives, Pan-Asia Power Grid, which is connecting national power systems, and ADB aims to provide $50 billion over 10 years. And then we have another initiative, Asia Pacific Digital Highway, to connect digital infrastructures across Asia and the Pacific, 20 billion over 10 years. And now we are working on a network of economic corridors, because ADB has been working on economic corridors over the past decades. Yeah, the first economic corridor project actually in the 1990s. And we have been working on SASEC corridors, GMS corridors, CAREC corridors. And now we need to build up corridors, domestic corridors, as well as sub-regional corridors as building blocks. And then we can have achieve a network of economic corridors across Asia and Pacific, which will hugely increase the efficiency, productivity, and the resilience. Only with network you can really resilient, because that will give you the diversification of the connectivities. So we're working on it. Thank you very much.
Great. Max, 30 seconds.
I'm not sure. I think I'm the only private sector representative over here. So maybe I just want to make a concluding remark that I think in terms of the transportation flows, freight flows, actually the private sector has a very keen sense. These people know where to go, where to ship, how to make it most efficient, right? So I do urge public policy makers, when we design, let's say, corridors and look at the routings, do try to involve the private sector opinions as well. Because sometimes I think it was not consulted with the private sector. And therefore, these new corridors insights may be very critical. Like when we do our analytics work, we always try to compare notes between the public sector and the private sector. And sometimes we find that there's a difference, right, in what they contribute. So I think the private sector involvement is also one important element. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Max. So, colleagues, I believe you have enjoyed the discussion of the panelists as much as me. I think one takeaway from my side is when we have a clear target in the second round of question, collectively we brought the delay from 12 minutes to 3 minutes. So I think that's also the essence and the spirit of RCI. So this will need a collective effort to ensure the efficiency to make the region better connected to deliver a big target. So now I would like to open the floor for questions. So any questions from the room? Oh, do we have any question online? Please, Renja.
Thank you so much for a very fantastic panel. My name is Renza from AIIB. I've been working in Central Asia as well as South Caucasus for the past few years. And in China, AIIB has been financing 3 dry ports. Those are all sovereign-backed financings. What we discovered and learned in China is that the government is actually a driving force on overall strategic planning on those locations for the dry ports, and using them to turn China into a transcontinental transition country, connecting, for example, Southeast Asia as well as Central Asia. The China Railway Express is an example of those dry ports. But when we are trying to replicate that experience to other countries, the first difficulty is who is the government agencies for planning and operating those dry ports. Because in many other countries, logistics are usually considered as a private sector operation. But I'm very glad to hear from this panel that lots of countries are now also looking at dry ports, but from a public sector point of view. So I would like to ask, because we have Georgia, Lao PDR, as well as Bangladesh. In your country, which ministry shall we go to if we want to develop dry ports projects? Thanks.
Okay, thank you. So who want to take it? Salome, please.
Mr. Runze, thank you for this question, and happy to see you here in Manila. The dry ports, I was speaking from the perspective of the roads department as an implementing agency, and I believe that my response on this matter will not be very precise because it's out of the scope of the roads department. And as I am aware, the dry ports and the perspective of the logistic centers is under the Ministry of the Economy, and they are working on the strategical documents. They have the strategy how to develop the logistical centers in the country, and they are following this strategical planning. Of course, the country has already developed this strategy, how these logistical hubs should be developed, and we will see in the perspective and in the future how our country will improve the logistical hubs also. Thank you.
Yes, I think that our policy to build a dry port is we have two main purpose. So one thing, we also don't allow the big heavy vehicle to enter to the Lao PDR. Due to we need, it mean like a common good, we need to stop at the dry port, and then we allow the domestic transport operator to operate around the country. And the other thing, we also to support the connectivity. It means if the transit vehicle can come to the dry port and then you just go directly to the destination, but we just checking what kind of the good that you are carrying. But in my country, we also have some issue that is not linking with the railway easily. It means the dry port and the train station is a little bit far, so that's why we need to carry the container to the train station, so it takes time. So we need to improve this. This is the problem, I think. Yeah.
But this is also exactly the point, like why we want to push, we want to call for the awareness that do not only see logistics as a private sector operation. Actually, it requires lots of visible hands by the governments to have better planning of the locations of those dry ports to be closer to the major transportation hubs. That's exactly our China lessons learned. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, please. I just want to explain more about that dry port, sorry. Because dry ports is many countries also have a dry port, especially for landlocked country. So maybe we need a chance to learn from the other country if they good practice. Yeah. Thank you so much for your question.
Thanks.
Thank you. Actually, I just want to add something like about the dry port. In Bangladesh, actually, Ministry of Railways is building the infrastructure of the dry port. But if you want to connect with Bangladesh and any ministry, so actually for the dry port, the Ministry of Industry and Ministry of Commerce also are integrated with the dry port, utilization of the dry port. But the infrastructure is built by the Ministry of Railways. Thank you.
Thanks a lot. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Any other questions? Please, dear.
Thank you. Good morning. So I have a slightly different question.
You want to introduce yourself?
Sorry. My name is Thea Lazaro. I'm from Central and West Asia Department of ADB. So my question is, how do we leverage? We discussed earlier the different projects, connectivity projects for enhancing movement of goods. So a different question is, how do we leverage enhanced connectivity to actually also promote the movement of people? And is it part of any of our government officials or even development partners? Is it also part of our planning in terms of enhanced connectivity, considering the impact on people for them to be moving cross-border? Thank you.
Catherine, you want to take it?
Movement of people. So I think that's a great question, and it's not easy to answer, so bear with me. I think there's the separation that we've been talking mostly about freight, and I think everybody looking at the images in their mind when you talk about connectivity and supply chain resilience, the main driver is the movement of freight, the facilitation of trade and economic growth, right? So I think you have a point in that the cross-border movement of people tends to be an afterthought or a byproduct, right? But doesn't seem to be the primary objective. And I think that's how logistics systems work. And I think the vulnerabilities have become just so much more obvious given recent geopolitical developments. So I would say that cross-border movement of people requires some infrastructure and operational trade-offs, right? Anyone who's ever operated a railway that has to accommodate both passenger and freight transport knows that this is challenging, right? And the logic of operating a railway is you would always prioritize passenger transport first, and then a freight transport has to fit into the slots that are available. So I think for governments or for whoever operates these cross-border systems, they need to be aware that certain trade-offs need to be made, right? So I think to be honest about that and to first consider that when you plan your transport service, that's certainly one thing. The other is that's on a global or larger scale, but then you have sort of small regional cross-border trade, which is incredibly important for the economic prosperity of many of the border regions, right? So I think that is something that probably needs a way more pragmatic and sort of smaller scale approach, and I would argue probably on the regions concerning these specific cross-border areas. So I think it's a very different scale, and it requires very different solutions, and in some cases also requires some tough trade-offs, to be honest.
Can I say some quickly? Yeah, I think the question you might hear is more about a labor movement, but actually ADB does a lot for tourist movement. So that's tourism. ADB has helped the countries to cooperate on tourism, the policy to facilitate tourism, and also building infrastructure to facilitate tourism. I think we need to encourage tourism because tourism employs a lot of people, highly impactful on the society. And tourism seems, sometimes we had some discussion. AirAsia, you might be familiar if you are from Southeast Asia. AirAsia might have done more work on regional cooperations than a lot of governments, including ADB, including UN SCAP, because AirAsia connects countries in a huge way. The air travel really connects countries by moving people around, particularly for tourists. I think this is a huge area, and ADB now is also working across the bank. We have a small working group on promoting sustainable inclusive tourism. ADB didn't put a lot of money, but it's highly impactful, multiply a lot of economic impact. Thank you.
Because as I said before, that Bangladesh has a border of 4,000 kilometers with India. So we have a lot of movement of people to and from India to Bangladesh. So it is there. So people are moving with train, buses also. So it can be increased further for the tourism and other social issues. So it can be improved. So I think ADB is working on it. So maybe in future the movement of people will be more in future. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. So I feel we probably can stop here for this session. I'm sure there are many other questions. Feel free to chase our panelists in the break and even in the remaining part of this transport forum. I don't think I can make a summary of the discussion, but my main takeaway is RCI is a space even growing bigger than ever. And in this kind of global and regional context, RCI is becoming more relevant and more important. Among others, I think what Max presented, the connection between Mongolia and Vietnam, that is really an amazing example. So we hope we can see more similar examples, and we hope ADB and also other development partners can play a role to bring these kind of great examples into reality. So I hope you have enjoyed the session. I guess we got a lot of answers and also a lot of questions. let's carry this forward. Thank you.